If you've ever wanted a better way to say, hey, we need to talk, then this episode is for you. Welcome back to Dating Intentionally. I'm Talia. I'm a dating coach, and I'm sharing no nonsense advice for navigating modern dating with confidence and ease, whether you've been on dozens of dates or you're just getting started. I believe dating can be fun. I also think having tough conversations could be more fun with the right approach and lots of practice. That's what we're talking about today. This short episode is a preview of the full one, which you can get access to on Patreon. Over on Dating Intentionally on Patreon, you can get all my solo episodes, extended guest interviews, direct access to me for dating advice, and more. You can become a member today by heading over to patreon.com/DIpodcast or just Google Dating Intentionally on Patreon and you'll find it. Recently, we've been having some great discussions in the group about how to get someone's number in real life, dealing with the ick, navigating dating past date 3, texting between dates, and so much more. I'm loving our tight-knit community in there so far, and I would love for you to be a part of it. Once again, you can join by heading to patreon.com/DIpodcast or head to my bio link on Instagram for the link. Okay, on to today's topic. Let's talk about how to bring up those uncomfortable things, the hard things to talk about with someone you're dating or in a relationship with. Hard conversations could be anything that's hard for you to talk about, like when the words just don't come out or you have a physical reaction while trying to express yourself, like crying, which is normal. Some topics that you shared it with me on Instagram that are hard for you to talk about are someone being on their phone too much, if there's a future in the relationship, talking about finances, anything to do with sex, politics, grief, or even just sharing your positive feelings about someone. That can be hard too. I'm calling these hard conversations because they're just difficult to have. And when I say hard conversations, I just mean the ones that are more serious, heavy, not super fun, or emotional. In this episode, I'm going to get into some practical tips for approaching tough topics and bringing things up in a more productive, positive way that opens up a great conversation. But first, let's look at why it is so hard to bring things up in the first place. Why can't we just pick up the phone right now and call up a person and say, hey, I want more in this relationship, or hey, I need more effort from you, or I want to talk about finances today. We don't do that. It's hard. Having these hard conversations is important and can make us feel more connected to our partner. I know it's difficult to believe if you've never had this happen, but these conversations can bring you closer. These moments of vulnerability bring more understanding, intimacy, and growth to a relationship. Fun stuff, right? So I hope this episode helps put you on track to feeling more confident in bringing up tough topics instead of keeping them stuffed down. Think of it this way: by not sharing how you feel about things, especially areas for improvement, you're robbing the relationship of growth and you're robbing your partner of information of how to be a better partner to you. In early dating, you're missing out on seeing how they react to these tough topics as well. The right person won't be scared off and will be game to figure it out if they believe it's worth figuring it out and if they're in a place to figure it out. It's not about you. So here are some reasons why it's so hard, shared by folks from the Dating Intentionally Instagram community. Let me know if you relate to these. So why is it so hard? Feeling like we are too much, right? Like when your emotions are just too much, your feelings, your thoughts, it's just too much for the other person to handle. If you have no practice doing it, that can definitely make it hard. I mean, we're not born knowing how to do this. So cut yourself some slack if you feel like you just suck at it. We all start off pretty bad at this, I think. If you cry through it. So sometimes these hard conversations don't even happen because you're just crying and you can't even physically get words out because you're crying. And trust me, I know. If you have a history with negative responses, so if you've tried to bring things up before and the people in your life, like your caregivers, siblings, friends early on in your life, if they have responded negatively, then later in life, it makes sense if you have a tough time bringing things to light. If you're worried about their reaction, again, kind of similar, even if you've never had any history of negative responses, you could still be worried if they get dismissive, upset, or angry. A fear of rejection, right? If you bring something up and they're just like, screw this, I don't want to do this anymore. I mean, that happens, unfortunately, but that is a real fear. Fear of not being heard, like you bring something up and they just don't understand you. If you're scared of hurting their feelings, right? Like if you've been a people pleaser, like most of us, it can be tough knowing that you're going to bring something up that might hurt their feelings or make them upset. Opening up a can of worms is scary, right? There is also this risk to looking under the hood of your relationship. If you encounter a problem or bring up an issue, then it's out there. You're naming it, and that means that you have to deal with it in some way. Dealing with their attachment triggers. So if you have to bring something up to someone who you know is anxiously attached, you might expect kind of an explosion or pushing you away or some kind of reaction, and that can cause you to not want to bring things up. Overthinking how and when to bring it up, it's such a big one. The timing, we all overthink the timing of these topics, right? It's like, when is a good time to talk about this tough thing, right? Feeling like you're supposed to be in a good mood all the time and that things are supposed to be easy all the time. We are so used to minimizing and silencing our own needs when we're uncomfortable, and we feel like we have to be peppy and happy and perky, and that's just not the case. But I totally understand if that's how you feel. Fearing they won't show up after you speak up. I relate to this. I mean, when you voice a need in your relationship, you are extending your hand basically to someone, and they might not be able to take it. They might not be able to meet you halfway. And that is scary. That is really scary. If you relate to any of these, just know you are not alone. I'd love to hear from you on Instagram. You can DM me at dating.intentionally. What are some challenges that you have with having hard conversations? You're welcome to slide into my DMs anytime. And if you want to hear all of my tips on how to approach hard conversations, including how to actually start the conversation with scripts and everything, head over to Patreon for the full episode. You can join right now by going to patreon.com/DI podcast or just Google Dating Intentionally on Patreon and you'll find it. In the full episode, I also talk about differences I experience when having hard conversations with my avoidant ex compared to my securely attached partner. I love sharing this stuff on the Patreon, so I hope to see you there. And I hope you enjoyed this preview. Thanks again for listening. I'll see you on Patreon, and I'll be back on Friday with a new guest episode. Bye.